If you're an artist, creator, or designer and you're eager to make a living by selling your artwork, you don't want to waste time, money, or make avoidable mistakes. I'm here to share my insights and to save you from making the same mistakes I made when I first started. For this special video, I decided to bring on a special guest, Mark Brickey, and he's the host of the renowned design podcast, Adventures in Design. Our goal today is simple. In this video, we're gonna share our top 10 lessons that we've learned during our art careers. Make sure you watch this to the end because one of these lessons could be the one piece of advice that you're missing to take your art career to the next level.
Today we are talking about, what was the idea? Pitch everybody, what's the idea for the video that you and I are recording over on your YouTube channel?
I've been trying to come up with concepts where like I could talk to like my younger self, right? I wrote down a bunch of ideas, and one of them that I really liked was, what are 10 things I wish I knew before becoming a full-time artist? You know, there's so many mistakes I made along the way. There's always people asking me questions at shows about like, how do I get started? How do I do this? You know, what should be the first thing I should do? And for me, it's like, you know, why don't I just record a video and share my experience, and you talk to the most amazing artists in the world. So obviously you'd be the best person to have this conversation with. So here we are.
Let's do it. All right. And the idea was that we would each show up with our own 5, which meant that we'll probably end up around 7. So I'll let you go first. Go ahead and rip one off of your list, but I've got my list of 5 up here in front of me as well.
Mine is, I say this all the time, is to pick a niche. Pick what audience that you want to work with. Then I'll just tell a quick story on why I say that. So when we first met, I had a clothing brand, right?
Yep. And
the clothing brand, it felt like it had a lot of potential. It felt like it was going to work. It just felt like, as an artist, it was the best business avenue you can go down, right? Because you didn't have to worry about, you know, selling one of ones or selling paintings and stuff like that. And when I did it, I pretty much did whatever came to mind. I had some basketball designs, had some underwater designs, and the name of the brand was Bluu Dreams, and it had an underwater theme to it, but the design was all over the place. And one of the things I learned after I made the switch to doing sneaker designs and focusing on the things that I love was, I don't think I was the best representation of the clothing line I was trying to put out. And I didn't realize that until I switched to doing things that had to do with basketball, because if you see me in person, I look like a basketball player.
You do?
So
you do. That was confirmation.
Since I started to focus on the niche, a lot of amazing things started to happen. Like, I don't have to market my artwork to people. People come to me.
Right.
I don't need to market myself to businesses. The right businesses I want to work with find their way to my email. And then another thing that happened was I started to figure out what shows I should go to, what shows that wouldn't work for me. So in the beginning, I would go to all these craft fairs and I would try to sell my t-shirt designs, but people weren't buying. I couldn't figure out why. But now when I go to the trade shows, go to the conferences where people who are into basketball, into sneakers, I don't need to say much. They see the designs and then it just organically starts a conversation. They want to follow what I do. They want to keep up with what's going on, or they just want to hear what I have to say with what's going on in the sneaker community or what's going on in like streetwear and stuff like that.
Right.
So if I can go back and talk to young Anderson, the first thing I would say is, man, you have to pick a niche, stick to it. And it's just going to save you so much time and so much of a headache way down the line. And by the way, guys, it took me 10 years to figure that out. So trying to save you guys some pain and anguish.
Yeah, none of these things come to us fast. Would you say that, to build on that, essentially you made your brand a brand that you would be the customer?
Yep.
Like you wanted to buy you is essentially what you got to after a decade.
Yeah. And every time I design, I just look at it as, I'm a fan of this. I just happen to show my fandom through artwork, show my fandom through, you know, the content that I make. And that's what's been the biggest game changer, because I'm not saying I was faking it when I had the clothing brand, but this is authentically who I am. You know what I mean? So
no, I get it.
Everything just fell into place, and it was a game changer.
I think your first brand, when you and I first met, it was a good idea, and it was a good short-term idea. And I mean, you learned so much from it. So no way would we ever say that it was a failure. However, when we look at the evolution of your career and where you got, you became yourself, and you fully figured out, like, who am I? What would I buy? What am I passionate about? And so instead of being pigeonholed into the water theme, the whole world opened up to you, and you were able to take cartoons that you like and sports figures that you like and pieces of pop culture and mend them together. And when we look at the opportunities you've gotten for, designing your own shoes for Foot Locker, Asics, and G.I. Joe, like what a collab. It's your personality that put you in that room. So I know that it sounds so incredibly obvious to somebody who's watching this video today, but man, oh man, you really have to do a gut check. Am I making the product that I want to consume? And believe it or not, it takes a lot of self-confidence and a lot of understanding, who actually am I? What is the product that is missing? And am I worthy? Am I the person that's capable of making this product? It's like a lot of gut checking that you just don't have when you go, I'm going to start today.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the biggest worries is that I don't know if there'll be enough people that want to buy this or to participate in this, or maybe it's too small. Or the very common thing I hear is, I don't want to be pigeonholed in this thing. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't want to be stuck.
Exactly. And I don't know. I think you'll be shocked on the world that would open up once you do that.
So one that I have, and I mean, we could do 10 hours on this. I naively thought that this is how you open a business or how you start a business. I thought that you did one job for one client, and that would go over so well that then you would land 3 more and then 3 more. And I just kept thinking that customers and jobs is just like this Christmas tree, right? Where the first job is the star on top, and then there's a row of ornaments below it, a row of ornaments below it. And the Christmas tree gets wider and wider and more decorative. And there's just always presents as the bottom as you start from the top down. I didn't know that when I got into being a professional designer and an artist, that every project, every month, every year, I would fundamentally get way, way better at my job. However, the career would only get harder and harder. And it became so frustrating. I'm like, I'm getting better and this is getting harder. And to break that down is, you're watching videos and you're brushing up on your skills, and every project makes you a little bit smarter, a little bit better. You get more efficient. You start to hone in like your design decision making. What I refer to is you get, more magic tricks up your sleeve that you can kind of pull out, where you know how to make things, work and pop. But the problem is that every semester there's just another bucket of 1 million people that are dropped into your industry, and every quarter budgets somehow magically go down. And it was just so weird. Imagine Michael Jordan, if every game, like, God, this guy's getting just so amazing at learning the game and controlling the game and the airtime and his shots and the dunks. But why is every game he getting less points? It wouldn't make sense. Like,
no, it wouldn't.
He was regarded as the best because you could look at the stats and be like, he just gets better and better and better. But I was Michael Jordan in baseball, where it's like, hey man, I got a talent here. I'm just not getting it to click. So I would tell people that it definitely gets harder, and you shouldn't think that it's going to get easier, because what you're doing when you become an artist is you are putting yourself into this wild realm of culture and technology, and there's always new people showing up. There's always new things that are changing. Like, you're a part of culture's disruption. Don't think it's like oil changes. And you know what? I changed this guy's oil. He loves the way I change his oil. He tells 2 of his friends, and now they all come here every 30,000 miles and get their oil changed from me. You're not a barber. You're a designer. You're not going to build clientele as easy.
So with everything you just said, because I just want to dive deeper on it. So are you saying that, like, that now you're kinder to yourself because now you understand how tough it is, or just going in with the mindset that things are going to change and you stick to the game plan?
Yeah. Well, one, I realized that you have to have a game plan, because if you just try to do the same thing over and over, what's relevant right now while you and I are recording is irrelevant when this video posts. Like, we live in a world where you should always be measuring your success, evaluating how you can do better, and just keep moving forward. You got to be a shark. You got to keep swimming. So I guess to take this advice and to make it applicable to somebody is never stop learning. Never stop looking at whatever your industry is. Like, never stop keeping an eye on who's perceived to be in first place. Never stop reading, the news. Like, just, you can't tune out and tune into like, I got this figured out, because trust me, you will never have it figured out. Like, I have interviewed the very, very best in the world of art and design. And when the camera goes off and the microphone goes off, everybody's pretty lost. Everyone's like, I think I got the next. So I always, I'm wrapping up all my recording equipment when I'm in somebody's studio, and I'm like, so what do you got going on for the rest of the year? Like, I don't know, like I remember talking to Tristan Eaton. They're like, who's better at the art game than Tristan Eaton? He's like, I don't know, man. I'm just having a kid this year, and I'm going to just kind of sit back and see what happens. I'm hoping some people call me. I did some stuff for Universal. I'm hoping that leads to some things. I'm like, fucking Tristan Eaton is literally just like, I'm going to have a kid and hope people call me. Like, that's insane that at the top tier, he's just like, I don't know, man. We'll see what happens next year.
So it's so funny you say that, because just from conversations I've had with people, I think I was in Creative South not too long ago. And one of the topics were just when am I able to coast? When am I able just to do this one thing? And then that's it. You know what I mean? And you're right. You're absolutely right. I think one of the things you could do to really shoot yourself in the foot is to stick to one game plan and not always be learning. We're talking about YouTube. The YouTube market has been flipped on its head because of a new thing, which is short form, And I feel like some people who have ignored social media altogether, long form, short form, that stuck to what Instagram was doing in the past, are lost because they didn't want to, keep learning, keep their eye out, keep their ear to the streets, and figure out what they can use for themselves. So I definitely agree to that. If there's anything that I feel like that has helped to keep my career growing, is always being a student and just trying to figure out, like, I'll be honest with you, the last thing I want to do is edit videos. The last thing I want to do is shoot videos, but just knowing how important it is, and just knowing that, like, hey, I might need to learn this editing program, so when I give it to somebody, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just saying, like, yeah, just make it look nice. Just bring it back to me.
Right.
Has been a total game changer.
Yeah. I think about all the guys, the old crickety guys are just like, oh, everything's video. I don't want to post it. I'm not talking into a camera. I'm not doing bye. See ya.
Right.
Right. I literally went from being a designer to being a podcaster that talked about design because I saw more opportunity, and I thought about it. I'm like, I interviewed Charles Anderson from CSA, who's just a phenomenal designer. And after I did the interview with him, he goes, where'd you go to broadcasting school? I'm like, I didn't go to broadcasting school, bro. I'm making all this up. He goes, well, you're really, really good at it. And he goes, if I could offer you any advice, it would be this. Every semester, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are competing for your job. So he's like, do you want to be in that race, or do you want to pull yourself out of that race and go, every semester there's 100,000 new people that I can entertain through my podcast?
Yeah. And then you're building your own audience. You're not like, fighting to stay at the top of the heap. So yeah. I totally get it.
All right. What do you got for your number 4?
Ooh, good question. So I guess my second one, our number 4. All right. So for this one, and this is going back to when I first started, I just thought selling t-shirts, selling merch would have been enough. It would have been, if you're able to capitalize on that, then everything will work itself out. And then, perfect example, like what's going on right now in our economy. I learned that diversifying your income is a big thing that you should do.
Yes.
So for my 4th point is diversify your income. When I first started, so I did a little bit of selling my own merch, a little bit of freelance, but that was about it. I heard about social media. I didn't really take it serious, but I understood how important it was. This year, I am so thankful that I took TikTok and YouTube serious, because it's just allowed me to open up a new arm of my business for me to bring in, some extra cash whenever I can. one of the things that's carrying my business right now this year is collaborations with different brands. Because for me, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's a short video that I do on my platform. And I hate to say it, it pays 10 to 20 times better than being an artist, you know? And it's to the point to where...
Don't hate to say that. Say it with pride, my friend.
Right. But it's, you know what it is? To me, it hurts my heart because it's like the amount of work it takes for somebody to do a campaign. You spend a month or 2 months designing, going back and forth with people and trying to figure it out. You get paid this one amount. And then when it comes to marketing, which is significantly a lot less work, and you put it out, they'll pay you way more for that because that's just where the value is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, with that being said, just setting up different things to bring in money. So once one thing dips, when one thing dips, you can have other things to rely on is just a game changer. And, you know, you do it right now. You know, you have the podcast, you have YouTube, you know, you're working with different companies. And for me, it helps me sleep better at night because the worst thing was when the t-shirts weren't selling. It was like, okay, so what do I do? You know what I mean? Do I try to find people to work with so I could design for them? And just being able to say, just in case this isn't working, I have other things that will help to keep my head above water.
Yeah. What Anderson is talking about is something we've talked about on Adventures in Design for years, and I can't believe it's not on my list. So if you're counting at home, we are at 3. We might actually make it to 10 today because it seems we're hitting this from 2 different directions. But having different ways of earning money is such a smart thing for any business, but in particular, if you're in a high-risk business such as art, creativity, being a creator. When you look at making money, and if you're single in your focus, you know, that's great if you have a job. If you're an actor, you're like, I just want to be the best actor ever, and you just focus on acting, that's awesome because you have a job and you're an actor. But when you become a freelancer, you're not a designer who freelances. You're a entrepreneur that does design services, and it changes it. You can't be single in your vision. You can't just be, I'm just going to be the best designer and then it'll all fall into place. That happens for like 1% of the 1%. The way that it will work realistically is you will have client projects and those will ebb and flow. And then you should create your own personal projects because your personal work will be your best work. And then that will draw in more clients. But when you do that personal work, there needs to be an application. So you should get into creating products. But then when you're creating the products, you should probably think about doing online retail, which is consistent, but there's credit card fees and website fees. And then you should probably also look at some different events you can go to where it's cash and carry or a bunch of money dumped into your Square account or whatever account you have all in one day. And if you do this long enough, then you've lived enough life to where maybe you can create some content telling people how to do it. And you might get hired to go out and speak about it on a stage someplace. I've just illustrated to you 5 different ways to make money inside of your own life story. Typically, 2 will be hot, 2 will be meh, and 1 will be in the garbage can. And those 5 will rotate over and over and over again. But when something like COVID hits, and the world goes wacky, you'll be so happy that you diversified your income and that at least a couple of irons are still in the fire while live events and live speaking engagements are in the trash can. You'll be like, well, thank God I learned how to design for myself, make my own products that I can sell digitally, because those are 3 things that I can still do while I'm waiting for client budgets, live events, and speaking engagements to come back to me while the world is on pause. You will thank yourself 1,000 times over if you create multiple ways of earning. You absolutely nailed it, my friend. That is a very, very important one.
Thank you. And thank you for breaking it down that way, because I know I might have missed some points, but that is exactly what I was talking about.
Dude, we've talked about it so many times because it's just one of the survival instincts. Okay, number 4 on our list, because this is one that you haven't shut out yet. And it's funny, we're kind of hitting this from 2 different perspectives, being in 2 different moments in our life. My 4th one is a very weird one to tell. I'm assuming a young person that's probably watching this over on your YouTube channel. but talk to your dad, talk to your grandfather about a thing called seniority. And the way that seniority works is this. When a guy shows up at a company, everybody treats him like shit. But year after year, he's there longer. And what does he do? He treats the new guy like shit. And this thing called seniority means the longer you're there, the easier and more cush your job gets. So for example, my dad was a truck driver. Every 6 months, they would do a bid on the different routes. Well, the easiest route where you literally get in the truck, you drive to one destination, you drop one trailer, you pick up one trailer, and you come back. It's all driving. It's not cruising around town. It's not tons of stops. The easiest drive that got you home every night by 5 o'clock went to the guy that had been there the longest. And the new guy is running around town. He's got all kinds of pressure. He's got all kinds of stress. He's stuck in traffic. He's stuck trying to figure out where the loading dock's at to drop off this trailer. Like that guy is scrapping and just going from sunrise to sunset, getting home late, sunburnt and tired, waiting it out to where he can get that cush gravy route where it's just one stop, one drive, home by 5. That's called seniority. That doesn't exist in the creative space or in the freelance space, because at any time, anybody can fall from the sky and pass you 10 times over. I've been grinding on YouTube for years, 28,000. My man AB shows up out of nowhere, 200,000. And what do? Do I get bitter? Do I stop being his friend? No, I celebrate him. I learn from him. And I realize that at any moment, I might end up passing him, because when you get in the world of creativity and freelance, there are no boundaries. There are no rules. There is no seniority. Anybody can go anywhere at any time. So what makes this exciting is that any project can change your career forever. You could come up with an idea, you could kickstart it, and it could blow up for you. But it might also do that for somebody that you hate, or one of your friends, or somebody who you don't know. And then you'll sit back at home and go, why didn't I think about doing what Made by James is doing? How did James Martin learn how to master social media for designers by working his face like a puppet into the camera, and also happen to be a very good designer? You know, at any moment, anybody from anywhere can lap you. And by the way, my friend James Martin, Made by James, he started that voyage 10 years ago, and it started to pop for him. And now he's the dude that's perceived out in first place. But there was a long time where he was seeing lots of other people take off while he was waiting for his turn. So what I'd like to say is there is no seniority. Remember, you can lap all your buds at any particular moment, but the chances are you're going to get lapped so many times before you get to lap anybody else. And you just have to make peace with it. That's what you signed up for. It's not like, well, I've been here longer. Nobody cares, because in many times the person who just showed up has a fresh new look. And I interview a lot of older guys who are like, I don't know what I'm doing with the twilight years of my career. And it gets scary. So keep all of that in mind. Even though you're young and you haven't heard anything that I've said, this might be one of the most important things anybody tells you.
No, I agree. I feel like the good news is for the new person is if you come up with a game plan, a good strategy, that you don't have to wait 10 years for the right people to see it. So that's the good news. But when things start working, you have to keep in mind that you just can't get stuck in your ways, like you were saying before. Like you have to keep, reinventing who you are, what you're doing, and try to tell it from a different angle. And yeah, man, I agree. Even now, like I said, I'm doing long form. Like that's the last thing I want to do. But I'm trying to look at what's happening in the market and say, okay, short form works, but I also want to build the best connection I can with my audience. So I am going to begrudgingly do this long form video, really gut this out, and just do everything I have to do. Because now that I think about it, not too long ago, when I was starting short form video, I was just like, this is the last thing I want to do, but I'm going to do it because I feel like this is where the attention's at. You know what I mean?
And it worked out for you. And, Anderson's talking about when he does a long form video, it obviously takes longer to record it. It takes longer to edit it. And for him right now, the results are much less. He can do a 15-second video and it has an honest to goodness chance of getting hundreds of thousands of views, maybe cracking 1 million. So he's putting in way more work for not even 1% of the return. But those are the investments that we have to put in ourselves, because you have to realize if this is what you truly plan on doing for the rest of your life, you're in it for the long haul. You're in it for the long game. And so many things in my career, I'm doing them because I can see where they will end up leading me years from now, months from now. If you're always thinking about a quick win, you will get a couple of those, but you'll also get lost one day when everything that you're doing either becomes irrelevant or you become irrelevant because you weren't also planting seeds for the future and adapting. There's an amazing artist that I love talking to about once a year. His name's Jermaine Rogers. He's like a Buddha of a designer. And Jermaine talks about, you will have peaks in your career where you're at the top of the mountain and people are celebrating your artwork. The money's coming in, the opportunity's coming in. And he's like, you'll never quite know when you're at your peak until you start going down the other side. And everybody will have these peaks, but he's like, your career is truly judged when you're in your valleys, and can you find another peak? And so to everybody that's listening, you will have moments. I've had moments where you're red hot and things are building, but things don't stay there forever. I mean, look at pop culture, look at famous actors, famous bands, famous rappers, athletes is a huge part of this, because the body only stays prime for so many years. Look at NFL running backs. You have 2 great seasons. And I was like, hey, he's pretty old. He's 26.
Yep.
Which is insane. So keep in mind that you should be planning things for the long run, because your career will have lots of peaks and valleys. And if you're always just trying to hit the peak, you're going to be really messed up when you get to a valley, because it brings me to number 5 on our list, which is my next one. I didn't know that really becoming an entrepreneur or becoming a creative, I mean, I guess being an entrepreneur and being a creative, it's a little bit different, because owning a laundromat is being an entrepreneur. You buy a shitty space, you buy 48 machines, you buy somebody that cleans it up and babysits it for you, and all you do is you show up with your keys and get your quarters, right? And that person is an entrepreneur, because they're going to their laundromat, they're emptying out all their washers and dryers, they're seeing how much fabric softener they sold, and they're taking their change, and I'm an entrepreneur. But when you're a creative as an entrepreneur, it's different, because creativity comes from inside. It's a piece of your heart and your brain and your soul that you're like just whittling off the top to lay out into the world. And then you're saying, hey, world, judge me. Like, judge my creativity, judge my talent, judge my intellect. I didn't know that doing this professionally, or I don't think I was prepared for how much it would challenge my self-esteem. I'm a pretty confident person. In fact, a lot of times I get told that I may be overconfident. I can be a little cocky. I can walk like a peacock. My self-confidence, my self-esteem is very, very strong. It's very high. It's one of my greatest attributes. However, there are moments where I have had tears in my eyes, and I don't really believe in God, so I don't know who I'm speaking to when I say this, but I'm kind of crying out to the universe. Universe, I am willing to work harder than anybody. I'm willing to put in 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just show me where to put all this hard work, because I feel lost right now. I feel like everything that I'm grinding on is going nowhere. I feel like I'm getting left behind. I feel like the money's getting hard. Like, just tell me where to put all this tenacity, and I will go in that direction. I had no idea being a professional creative would again and again and again challenge my self-esteem, challenge my value as a person. I don't like saying this out loud, but I want to give everybody the truth. There has been moments when I've thought about my life insurance, and I thought about, I'm a whole lot more valuable dead than I am alive today. And that is a bleak and scary thought. I am anti-suicide. I've had over 10 people in my life that I've lost that way. I'm very sensitive to it. I am not somebody that would go in that direction, but, and I'm also an extremely self-confident person. I'm saying all of this for you to know that if it has challenged me, a guy who has websites where people just all day long talk shit about me and I just laugh and giggle at it, like, I'm pretty resilient and it has broken me. So be prepared for it to break you as well. And don't feel alone. Do not feel alone when you feel like you don't know what you're doing, when you feel a little bit broken, when you feel like all your ideas are shit. I've interviewed the best and it happens to everyone. Mm-hmm. So the only reason why I'm going so far out of the way to talk about how big and tough I am is because it breaks me. It will break you. Don't feel like this is a unique thing that you're going through, because we all deal with it. It's part of the creative process, and only creative people truly understand that last sentence. It is a part of the creative process.
It is.
Sucks,
it is. And as a person that's run a few businesses, I just think it's the natural course of running a business. You know, like while I was doing Anderson Bluu, I've had an accounting agency that I've also have been, you know, managing. Pretty much I've been running. And, you know, so when I first got into this business, the first thing I heard was there's two things that's guaranteed in life: death and taxes. So for me, it's like, oh, that's a great business to be in. You know, at the end of every year, everybody has to do their taxes. So like, why not be a part of that business? But at the end of the day, one thing that I've learned is just running a business is hard. It's tough. There's a reason why only there's 10 businesses, maybe 2 actually make it to the end. And I just feel like everything you just said, as far as just being kind to yourself, knowing it's going to be tough. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. The best you could do is just have people around you, if you can, for people to talk to, especially just to walk you through the process, or maybe just to, you know, just to show you that, hey, I know it feels like a lot, but take a day off. It might not be as bad as you think it is, or maybe you just need a day to recharge, because Lord knows my wife tells me that all the time, you know?
For sure.
So, so I definitely agree. It's difficult, you know? And I do like what you said, because like when I first did it, I didn't know it was going to be that hard. I just thought that, hey, I feel like I should do something big, so it should work out. But if you're not aware, it really hits you like a ton of bricks, because it's kind of like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what the next move to make. Am I supposed to do this? And, you know, just going down those thoughts can just make things a lot harder, especially when you're trying to build your own business.
We also get kind of broken because we hear so many stories of, hey man, Jay-Z was selling demos out of the trunk of his car and now he's Jay-Z. Or Russell Simmons was just doing, you know, shit out on the street and now he's a huge business guy. Like, we hear so many rags to riches stories, and those are like 1% of the 1% of success. You know, there's, for every Jay-Z that just blows it out of the park and becomes just ultra wealthy, there are 999,000 kids that thought they were going to become a rapper that are doing a job right now that they hate, with credit card debt from buying gear, from buying studio time, from buying a camera, from buying, you know, whatever, maybe going on tour and you know, funding that with a credit card at a high interest rate. Like, for every one person that hits that upper elite, there are just rows and rows and rows. I mean, there are people that, you know, back in my day made it to MTV and Yo MTV Raps, the 5'5" Freddy. And they're working regular jobs now, being like, yeah, I had a hit song back in the 90s, you know, like, I mean, it happens only for such a select amount of people, and it can happen for you. And I hope that it does, but the odds are that it won't. So yeah, every day, let's show up and let's try to do good work and create an emotional lottery ticket that we put out in the world. But remember just that, it's a lottery ticket. Somebody's going to win today. It might as well be you, but the odds aren't in your favor. And don't let that not let you not show up tomorrow, but just keep in mind that true, like lightning in a bottle, it's rare. Keep striving for it, but don't count on it.
Yeah, I think you just have to treat it like exercise. Like, every day you show up, you do some 10 push-ups, and you're not going to see the result immediately, but you just got to have faith that down the line you'll see the improvements. But I think I'm up next. Was this number 6?
Number 6, learn how to count.
Right. This one was a tough one for me because so I'll tell my own story. This might be outside the norm of most people. So I do not look like a traditional artist. I already know that. I remember when I walked into my first art, not trade show, but like a Creative South. The first thing somebody said to me, it might be somebody that worked there. They're asking me like, "Hey, you looking for football practice? That's down the road." I'm like, "No, I'm here for the art event, actually." He's like, "Really? You're not here to pick stuff up?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm here for the art event." So
insulting but funny.
Right. But so anyway, so in the very beginning, I was always like, I wouldn't say shy, but it took a lot of effort for me to go out, meet new people, network, and just, get to meet my fellow artists and just show people who I was,
Yeah.
And on top of that, I'm happy I have the video, but like I'm also an artist of color, which is something that you don't see a lot of at these shows or just in the art world. It is what it is. So I was feeling those two things, but it wasn't until I started to go to the Weapons of Mass Creations and the Creative South that I started to see an uptick in my career. So pretty much what I'm saying is my next point is just to network and collaborate. Every big collaboration I've done thus far has been from somebody I've known. I used to always wonder and read like the complex magazines, like how did somebody get this sneaker or how does this person work for this person? I just thought if you put out good artwork, people will come knocking. When I first started, nobody came knocking. That could have been the art. It could have been, I didn't know anybody, but I feel like it was just because I just didn't have a broad network of people that I knew in the space. And ever since I started to meet, even people like you or people at different events. So funny story. So I'll tell you the story. So the sneakers that I did with G.I. Joe, right? That was somebody that I met from Foot Locker. That person actually gave my name out to somebody else over in Spotify for me to do the mural. Two totally unrelated, but those things wouldn't have happened if I didn't have such a strong relationship with that one person. So I guess what I'm saying is it is just eye-opening on how just being able to build your own network can really open opportunities down the line.
Yeah. So this is extremely awkward to talk about in front of the camera, but you were there. We've had these conversations. Every designer looks like me, right? White,
right.
Kind of overweight, tattooed,
right.
has a beard, wears all black because kind of overweight. And I've told you before, like, dude, I think you're such an important part of the design puzzle because it has historically been such a white male driven industry. And when I first started doing the podcast, it was impossible to work on diversity because who are these people? Like I couldn't find people to interview that didn't basically look like I was looking into a mirror. And so, yeah, it's a little bit awkward to say to somebody like, hey man, like you should really, make sure that you lean into this and let people know that you're here and let people know who you are. So good on you for realizing that and being a good sport about like, you're here for football practice? No, man, I'm a designer.
The guy chuckled. He was just like designing what? A football field? Like no. I mean, I was like, no, like for real. Like I'm a graphic designer. He's like, yeah, okay.
People are so crazy. They just say
they're amazing.
Stupid shit. And I don't even think most people realize how offensive or how ignorant they are. And there's almost a charm to it. Like, wow, you really thought it was okay just to say that. So we have our first overlap because I had it written different than you, but that relationships matter. I wanted to go through the whole, how hard it is, no seniority, how it challenged me. And then, because I'm a storyteller, it would only make sense that my number 4 is you can't go in it alone. And one of the best things about Adventures in Design is it gave people an outlet of, people saw a podcast about design and they thought it was going to be academic because for whatever reason, the arts act like we're all like heart surgeons and shit. And we're not. we're blue collar workers in that we grind it out and we put in the hours, but we just have a white collar job because we sit at a desk and we use our brains instead of our backs, you know? And when we started doing the podcast, we let so many people know you're not alone. There's other people that are grinding like you are. There's other people that are confused like you are. There's other people that are having self-doubt. And so there are so many people that can't understand why it's happening for everybody else and not for them. And to them, I say, have you introduced yourself to everybody else? Have you done a trade show? Have you gone to a conference? Have you gone to a meetup in your neighborhood? Like, I know what you think, like, well, it's happening for everybody but me, but have you gone out and met everybody? Because there are lots of dudes that I know, because I come from the music industry. There's lots of dudes I know that have made $1 million playing guitar. And that doesn't mean that they're great guitar players. It just means that they had the self-confidence to meet other musicians, form a band, write a record, go out tour, and make money. There are dudes sitting in grandma's basement that can shred as hard as Eddie Van Halen. But because they haven't bet on themselves, because they haven't gone out and met people, they're just shredding in grandma's basement. Like, everybody has that weird uncle that's really good at drawing or really good at playing guitar or was amazing at football or basketball, but just lacked that self-confidence to go out and try and to introduce people. So whatever platform you're in, whether it's art, design, content creation, meet other people that do what you do. I'm a YouTuber. So when I go out, there's this thing where, you know, people walk by with their camera and they act like they don't see the other people that do what they do. Don't be that person. Be that person that goes, oh man, you're filming, I'm filming. What are you on TikTok? You on YouTube, Instagram? Like, what's your platform? Like, be a friend to people that do what you do. And if they give you attitude, that's on them. That's not on you. But if you are a friend to people that do what you do, you will make friends. You will make contacts. You will learn that you're not alone. And so many of my great opportunities have come to me because of that networking. And you think, but why would I want to make buds with my competition? Well, if you're truly good at what you do, you have no competition because you're doing you. Only you can be you. And so for a particular client or for a particular job, Anderson Bluu is the right fit. But for another job, Mark Brickey is the right fit. And it doesn't mean that one of us is worse than the other. It's like, dude, they needed you to go speak at this conference. They needed somebody with, you know, you have 1 million on TikTok, 200 on YouTube. You know, you're a face of a new generation of designers and diversity in a space that's been incredibly like one note for a long time. This is your stage to go walk out on. Or they need an MC that can talk to anybody about everything for a whole weekend. That's me, Mr. Life Experience, that can just be like, I haven't met you. We will become best friends in 35 minutes. So yeah. It doesn't take away from the other. Relationships matter. Make friends. Don't have an attitude, because also you never know, getting back to the seniority, you never know which person that you're rude to, that you talk shit about, that you blow off will become the most successful person you know. And then you're like, shit, I could have been in their good graces, but I clowned them on the way up. I speak from personal advice.
People talk, and especially, you know, the industry we're in is super duper small. And if you're just kind to people, you treat people like the way that you want to be treated, you'll be shocked. People will talk and say, hey, that nice person over there was great to me. They told me my art was nice, and that's a new friend. I think you have the next point. Which is the next one that you got?
Well, that was it. We had the same one. So we're this is now a top 9. This is officially a top 9 now because we overlapped there. So it's up to you and then back to me.
Gotcha. So this one, I don't hear a lot, but I don't know, maybe because I talk more business than anything, because that's just the role I feel more comfortable in. But for this one, in the very beginning, I would try to have friends help me with this thing. And that's pretty much contracts, which is a big no. So pretty much what I'm saying is I wish I knew to find a good person to help you with legal support or just with contracts.
Right.
I'm pretty sure when I first did my started trademarking designs or copywriting designs, I did them all wrong because I was just, legal Zoom. I was trying to figure it out. Wasn't really sure if I was doing the right thing. And then honestly, probably a few years ago, I decided to reach out to a lawyer and say, hey, I just need help looking over contracts, or can you make a draft of contracts that I could use to give people? At the end of the day, I figured out I'm just going to need the lawyer to look over everything, because you never know. And the one thing I don't want to do is to be one of those artists saying that, like, yeah, I signed this contract and now I can't do these things, or they own my life. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So I don't know why I don't hear a lot about it, but having a good person you can go to help you with these contracts is major, especially when you're freelance, because when you're working with people, there should be some type of contract in place, no matter what, especially when it comes to payment, just so everybody has an understanding what's going on. Because I can name a few times when I first started that I thought this person wanted this. I thought I was going to get paid at this time, but because everything wasn't written down, everything went haywire. It took forever for me to get paid, and it was nothing but issues. And one of the things I will say that I'm happy that I figured out was, even if I couldn't get a lawyer to like look through everything, I first started out with having my own draft. So I wasn't like a deer in headlights when somebody came to me like, do you want to give me the contract or should I give it to you? So at least I had something to go by. And then over time, it just pretty much built itself because of the many, many issues that happen when you design for other people. But like I said, having contracts and have a person that helps you to do it is major.
So to add to that, a couple of affordable workarounds, because a lot of people don't take care of their health because they don't have insurance, and they're fearful of going to the doctor because they don't have the money. And the same thing happens with the legal system in America. Everybody knows that they should be protected, but they're so intimidated by what legal representation costs. So here's a little bit of a workaround if you're just starting out and you don't have the means to go to a lawyer, but you absolutely should protect yourself. If you can find somewhere online, just sort of a basic bitch contract to get you started, right? This is free legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. You take this basic contract, right? And you're new and you're starting out, and we all get ripped off a couple of times here and there. We all learn the hard way, and it's part of coming up. So what you're going to do is this. You're going to make an oath to yourself that you are willing to get bumped one time so that you could say that you went to the school of hard knocks and that you did it all the hard way, because it makes for a better speech when you write your book or you stand on stage. So what you do is you take your boiler contract, and every time a client pulls a move on you that feels yucky or like they got one on you, you go, it's time to add a sentence to my contract. And so when you give somebody the files and then you wait 90 days to get paid, and by the time the money comes in, you've already ran up expenses on your credit card, so you actually kind of lost money on this, you just go over to your contract and go, we will give you files when payment is in full. So now you don't have to deal with that again. Whenever you have a client that you send over work to, and then they just disappear because they're busy running their company, and then they show up 45 days later when you're getting ready to go on vacation, and they go, hey, I gave you half the money up front. I need you to get this done by Friday. And you're like, but I just packed the car. The kids are ready to go on vacation tomorrow. You go, okay, well, you burnt me this time. But then you put in your contract, if we don't hear from you within 30 days, the job is void. We will keep the deposit for services rendered. And if you come back to us, then we will rebid and renegotiate this as a new project, and a new 50% deposit will be due. Every time somebody dicks you over, it is an opportunity to put yourself over. So let the clients get one on you, but never let them get two on you. And you can, if you have a strong boilerplate with things like ChatGPT or whatever, you can basically kind of work out, this happened to me. I need a legal sentence that protects me from this ever happening again, and just add them. When my wife and I were done running our design studio, I could have showed you the contract, and it was like a greatest hits of assholes. I could show you every line and be like, all right, well, this client did this. This one's when this guy did that. Oh, let me tell you about her. She was a work of art. But it only ever happened once. And it's great when it happens once, because you go, aha, I've learned where to tighten up the loose holes. I mean, think about it. Death Star only got shot in the butthole one time and it blew up. They didn't let it happen again.
And that was it.
All right. So does this bring me to my fifth and final one, which means we got to 9?
Yep. It's because I have one more. So, yep, this should be your fifth and final one.
All right. So this is what I have for everybody. I never knew that this would all be so hard. But, and I'll get to the but in a second, but I have been working for myself since the mid-90s. I have reinvented myself several times over. I've only ever stayed in one place for 3 or 4 years because I see the world's constantly changing. I'm going to be a part of that change. I have grinded and grinded and grinded for a couple of decades. If I were an electrician, by now I'd be making really good money, more than my mortgage, and I would have a mortgage, and I would have money for a boat. That's what I'm getting at. If I was an electrician for the last 2.5 decades, I would have always known how much money I was making. I could have budgeted my life according to that. Banks would have given me loans because I was an employee and not a business owner. Like, life would be so different if I would have just picked a job, but I didn't. I bet on myself. It's been hard. It's kept me up late. It's worn me out. Truth be told, it's maybe taken a year or 2 off of my life from the stress and the endurance of working so hard all the time. But I'll tell you this, when I think of myself at the age of 18, going to a trade school, getting that job at 20, and now being in that job for nearly 30 years, that sounds like shit. This has been so incredibly hard, but it has been so incredibly rewarding. I've changed people's lives. I have met the most amazing people. I've had moments and opportunities that I won't even tell them to you because I'll just sound like a weird bragger. I have brought so many strangers together that are now truly best friends that will grieve when the other one leaves this planet. I will leave planet Earth knowing that I made it a much better place. And I brought so many people together, and I kept a lot of people entertained, and I made a lot of people feel like they had a best friend when they were sitting in a room alone with their thoughts. It has not been easy, but it has been fucking rewarding. Challenge yourself, work hard, know it's going to beat the shit out of you. But if you're working hard for the right things, there will be a reward at the end of whatever rainbow you're chasing. And that goal isn't always money. I have chosen passion over profitability, and I would do it all over again. But I am ready for some profitability.
So it's so funny because my story like aligns with yours. So I've actually been making steps to walk away from the accounting industry because I just didn't love it. It was hard. It was tough. And it's, you know, when you deal with people's money, it is a very emotional thing to deal with, especially, yes, you know, when it comes to taxes, you're dealing with maybe 20 people a day, 10 people a day. And some people are happy, some people are not. And, you know, that weighs on you. So on paper, me being an accountant, you know, as far as I want to build a 401k, that would be the job that I should stick to if I want to do that.
Right.
But just like what you said, if you're not happy, you're not happy doing it. You know what I mean? So for me, I feel so much more fulfilled when I'm doing what I'm doing now as an artist, building the social media stuff or learning new things. And I feel like when I talk to, you know, some of my friends that might not be doing the things that they love, and I could be totally stressed out, I guess they have a lot of respect for what I'm doing because I look happy doing it. And when I was in my 20s, right, I saw all my friends getting married, having kids, getting their own place. And I was doing none of that. I was just like, wow, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like a sucker, you know? Yeah. I didn't feel the best about it. But now that things are clicking and I put in the time, I am so happy that I stuck to it because I feel like I have something to show. And I told my wife this the other day that even if this was to stop like tomorrow, I would still be proud with the art career that I had.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a lot of people that would be able to say that when they're working at a job that they're not happy with. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking down to anybody. I'm just speaking as far as, you know, my story and whatnot.
Yeah. I got recruited to work at one of the big studios here in Hollywood. And it was the type of job where I would have to leave all the things that I'm doing. And it was life-changing money. And I said no to it, just because essentially taking that job, I would no longer be me, you know? And that's not how I want this story to end. And I really do think of my life as a story that I'm writing a page in every single day. And if I went someplace and became an executive and started making that kind of money, yeah, I would have certain sort of like securities that would come along with it, and it would alleviate a lot of my stress. But then I'm just stuck in that system. And if that studio changes in a couple of years, then I got to go find another one of those jobs. And it's just like, then I'm wearing those golden handcuffs, you know? And I would rather get there on my own terms or get to wherever I'm supposed to be, but still be me. And being free and being who I am, there was a dollar amount that literally made me go, what is that worth to you? And I was like, yeah, it's not that. That's not the dollar amount. I want to keep rolling. I want to keep rolling the dice and keep being me, you know? So, I mean, I say all this from, I'm not like a loser that ended up here that I don't have any other place to go. Like, people have full on have offered me like for real life-changing gigs, but it's not what I'm in it for, man. You know, and I enjoy what I do. And I don't think you can over explain to people how important it is to wake up every day with a lust for life, to be doing what you love with people that you love in a place that you love. As far as that goes, I'm completely blessed.
And I feel like at the end of the day, that's one of the most important things. And I'll tell one quick story before I'll say my point. So since I'm an accountant and I was doing other people's taxes, a lot of the time my audience was older people who were like in their 50s or 60s. And I would just ask them about like, how's things going with the family? How's life? And there was one story that like fucked me up. And it was this one woman, she was like 60. She worked at the Social Security office and she spent a whole life saving, 30 years, pension, everything. And one of her favorite things she told me was to do cruises. And she was saying to herself, I'm going to retire at 65. I'm going to have a whole bunch of money in the bank. And then I'm just going to travel the whole time. So when she came in, she missed one of our appointments. I was like, hey, what happened? Is everything okay? She's like, no, I actually was at the hospital. I'm like, wow, is everything okay? She's just like, yeah, not really. She's like, something happened with her liver and now she's on dialysis and she cannot travel at all.
No.
And the reason why it fucked me up was just because like, this is a person that, you know, I'm Caribbean. My family is not from here, right? I'm one of the first born here. And one of the things that they pushed onto us was save money, work at a place that you probably don't want. But at the end of the day, at least you have your retirement.
Right.
And to see a person that like did all the right things and they didn't get a chance to enjoy it, it just hit me in a way like, you know what, man, I rather do exactly what we're talking about and do something I love and be happy with it because everything isn't guaranteed.
No, when you said all of that and that you were Caribbean, I really thought you were going to say we're Caribbean and it's always go on cruises. Because I thought you were going to be like, we're Caribbean and the rule is like, right, if you go to America and make money, you got to go on a cruise and bring money back home. So I didn't know where you were going with that. I appreciate it.
Gotcha. That'd be really fun if I pulled up like a Caribbean band. And by the way, this is sponsored by Caribbean Cruises and you need to go.
No, man. I mean, we're not guaranteed to get to the finish line. And if you live your life, if you're truly blessed, you'll never know when you hit the finish line, you know? And when people get put in a situation where it becomes a countdown to death, you're no longer living. And that poor woman that just grinded away her whole life that is now stuck with dialysis appointments and can't go too far from wherever her hospital or her doctor is. I mean, that's house arrest, you know? And she probably now is like, man, why didn't I at least take a week here or there or go do the things that I love? Because, I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's not a dialysis-friendly cruise line where she's going to get to go do what she wants to do. As we wrap up, I got a question here. You end this, and then I got a question for you for AID.
Yeah, sure. So my last one this is actually funny. My last one is to get an accountant or to use an accountant program. By the way, this is sponsored by sponsored by Anderson Bluu Accounting. No. all jokes aside, the reason why I say this is because when I first started, I got hit with a crazy tax bill because I wasn't keeping track of everything. I was new to accounting. I was new to just everything in business. And you don't know until you know. And if you're starting out as a freelancer, you want to pretty much maximize your expenses as much as possible. You want to take advantage of it. I ended up spending thousands of dollars in taxes because I just didn't do that. And I know accounting could be expensive. I totally get that. But there are a bunch of free programs you could use so you could at least expedite all your expenses, keep everything categorized. So when you do your tax, you have to bring it to somebody. You could just show it to them, because if you don't, they're going to charge you per hour to do it. And if you give it to them during tax season, they're going to beat you over the head. So definitely just look into a free program. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I don't know if you use one. I think QuickBooks might be free. There's another one that's escaping me, but just do a Google search, try to find one. I use a service where it's remote. So I have an accountant that keeps track of everything for me, and then has like a cool database that makes it super simple. So I can go in and see what's going on in real time. But I'm telling you, if you do not do this, I can almost guarantee you by April, by next year, you're going to have a tax bill waiting for you. Yep. So take it from me. Definitely invest in that.
I've had the same tax guy for 20 years. And the year 1 or year 0, when I met him, I didn't have a tax guy. I also was doing everything under my own social security number. I wasn't incorporated. And so when I met the dude, he's like, all right, so congratulations. You've done everything wrong. So let's repair this. And next year you'll do everything right. And so the first time that I started working with my guy, the first thing that he did was, he's like, okay, so you have a $12,000 tax bill. You don't have a savings account. So you're going to tell the IRS that you can pay $100 a month. He goes, you're always going to pay more, but always ask for the cheapest bill possible, because you always have the ability to pay more, but you never have the ability to pay less. So I grinded out those 12 G's, and I have gone on to become more successful and have yet to have a tax bill as much as when I was doing it all the wrong way. So yeah, taxes, lawyers, doctors, they're not fun things, but these are professionals that understand big parts of our world that if you invest in them, you will get so much back. So yeah, when I have to pay my tax guy at the end of the year, I'm like, that's a sizable check. It's worth it. And at the end of every month, when I have to pay our bookkeeper, who goes through and itemizes all of our expenditures and earmarks everything in a way, so at the end of the year, my tax guy has this PDF and he can just rip through it and figure it all out. Those are expenses that I don't enjoy paying for, but let me tell you, they are some of the best spent money. They're a valuable part of our team. And you know this more than anybody. Hire people to do what you can't do, so you have more time to do you.
Absolutely. And I could do my own books, but I still pay somebody else to do it because I just don't have the time to do it.
Smart.
So